Whoa, hello. This is not going to be one of my comedic videos with the zoom effects because I wanted to address something that I thought was pretty important. So I've seen a lot of personal finance videos talk about minimalism as a means to achieve financial independence. That is a scam. So on YouTube, a lot of personal finance is often conflated with or jointly talked about with minimalism. Now, minimalism, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, minimalism just supposedly means learning to live with less. However, as someone who has seen minimalism take over the personal finance sphere and touted as simply buy less things and you too will be rich, don't buy avocado toast and you'll be able to afford a house too, that minimalism is not what it actually appears to be. The reason why is because minimalism, like most things nowadays, has become a brand. Instead of focusing on the core aspect of minimalism of living with less, it has instead become commodified. It has become an aesthetic. And more importantly, it has become an aesthetic that only rich people can really afford. What we classify as minimalism is no longer simply living with less. Instead, it's a gentrified, intentional poverty, but not poverty out of necessity, as in having to choose between paying your rent or paying for food, but a poverty by rich people who don't have to make that choice. If you Google what minimalism looks like, you'll notice that it's a hyper-curated Scandinavian white furniture aesthetic for people who want their furniture to match their personalities. It's very boring, it has one specific look, and that one specific look is largely unattainable to the general public. Minimalism isn't the single mother working 2 jobs who chooses not to buy toys for her kids because she wants them to live a more mindful life. It isn't the person living paycheck to paycheck who has to choose between paying their rent this month or getting to eat. Even though in these situations, they're literally practicing minimalism because they are having to live with less than what is actually needed, but not out of choice. Under this current commodified definition of minimalism, financial austerity isn't minimalism unless it's intentional or by choice. Instead of minimalism, what I personally try to focus on with my spending is a more mindful approach that doesn't really have a name, but instead focuses a lot on intentionally purchasing things without all of the classist undertones that minimalism has. I practice a lot of intentionality already throughout my daily life. That intentionality means that when I do things, I do them for a reason. I try to do things mindfully and make sure that all of my actions are in line with my values. I do things because they contribute towards my long-term goals or overall wellness. I do things because they make me happy. This intentionality really means that I do my best to sit with my feelings and reflect as to why I'm doing something in the first place. However, I'm also careful not to shame people for buying things that they like because poor people should be able to have nice things as well. A really accessible approach to this is to borrow from the Marie Kondo method. The Marie Kondo method focuses a lot on whether things spark joy. It allows you to look at what you already have and practice gratitude for them.
Hello again, Editing Nicole here. I just wanted to clarify that the KonMari method itself is not minimalism, and this is something that she says directly on her website, and any claims that it is minimalism is honestly a Western projection. So the KonMari method focuses specifically on what you want to keep with your life, while minimalism focuses on intentionally living with less. So there are 2 different paradigms as to how they approach physical items. Okay, back to our regular content.
Meanwhile, what I've noticed is that a lot of minimalism and decluttering, it does approach things with the goal of trying to reduce as many physical things as possible, but often the sole reason that it tries to do so is to buy more aesthetically pleasing, sustainable items, which doesn't make sense because you know what's a lot more sustainable than purging your current wardrobe and going out and purchasing sustainable, minimalist wardrobe, just using the current pieces of clothing that you already have. Similar to minimalism being commodified, sustainability has also been commodified under capitalism, and that kind of commodification is called greenwashing. And because of that, the conflation of minimalism and sustainability and taking the higher road by purchasing sustainably, that's become an ethos that you can purchase as opposed to something that you try to practice throughout your daily life. An issue with this is that a lot of products that are sustainable often have a higher upfront cost. making it less accessible to the common person. Poverty pays dividends, and that someone who is poor will ultimately end up paying more over time for a product because they cannot afford a higher upfront ticket price to begin with. Let's say you have the option of buying a pair of boots for $20 that are cheaply made, as opposed to investing in an $80 pair of boots that will last you a lifetime. Over the years, the $20 boots will break down and you will have to spend more and more money every year to replace that set of boots because you could not afford the more expensive, sustainable pair in the first place. This is what is meant by poverty being more expensive in the long run. And it's odd that ethically made products are being marketed as a bonus. Should that not be the bare minimum to manufacture something ethically? In reality, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, and that capitalism, by definition, is a system that takes money or existing capital and grows it by exploiting and extracting the surplus value of its workers. And that's something that I'm very uncomfortable with. To claim to be able to purchase a higher moral ground, which is often something that's practiced by those in the minimalist or sustainable living field. Now, am I saying that money can't buy happiness, or we should not strive to be more mindful with our purchases? No, money addresses our direct material needs. We have the responsibility as consumers, not just in terms of the products we buy, but also the media that we consume, to look beyond the individualist propaganda that we receive. That tells us that if we simply work hard enough, or budget every cent wisely, or simply spend less, that it's possible to uplift ourselves and move towards upward social mobility and budget ourselves out of poverty, when that's simply not the case. And minimalism, as well as a lot of personal finance content and sustainability efforts, are indeed being marketed as a responsibility that should be shouldered heavily on the individual, when in reality, our individual actions cannot and should not be used as a salve for actual systemic change. Thank you for watching. I'll go back to being a living shitpost again soon. This is just something that I wanted to address.